Sarah, a young woman in her mid-20s, found herself unemployed. She had been working at a small retail store, but the business had to shut down due to financial difficulties. Now, she was left with no income and a mountain of responsibilities. Bills piled up on her kitchen table, each one a reminder of her growing debt. The electricity bill, the water bill, and the most daunting of all, the rent. Rent was looming, and the due date circled in red on her calendar seemed to mock her. The pressure was on, and Sarah felt it in every fiber of her being. One evening, in her dimly lit room, Sarah sat at her cluttered desk, scrolling through Craigslist. She had been searching for weeks, but nothing seemed to fit. Then, a glimmer of hope appeared on the screen. A personal assistant position, offering flexible hours and excellent pay. It was almost too good to be true. Sarah's heart raced. She knew she needed to be cautious, but the promise of a stable job was too enticing. Clinging to hope, she dismissed her gut feeling that it might be a scam. The job description mentioned working directly with a successful entrepreneur, managing his schedule and travel arrangements. It sounded like a dream job, a far cry from her previous dead-end positions. Sarah imagined herself in a glamorous office, wearing professional attire and handling important tasks. It was a vision that filled her with excitement and a renewed sense of purpose. Without wasting any time, she quickly drafted a cover letter, highlighting her skills and eagerness to learn. With a deep breath, she hit send, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. This could be the opportunity she had been waiting for, the chance to turn her life around. A few days later, Sarah received an email response. The sender, introducing himself as Mr. Smith, expressed great interest in her application. He proposed meeting at a local coffee shop for an initial interview. This seemed safe enough to Sarah. The coffee shop was bustling with activity, providing a sense of security. Mr. Smith arrived on time, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. He was charming and charismatic, instantly putting Sarah at ease. He spoke eloquently about his work, a self-made entrepreneur involved in various businesses. Sarah found herself drawn to his confidence and the prospect of working for someone so successful. As the interview progressed, there were subtle red flags that Sarah brushed aside in her eagerness to land the job. Mr. Smith was evasive when she asked about his specific business ventures. He didn't offer a company website or business card. He spoke vaguely about his current assistant leaving abruptly, necessitating the urgent need for a replacement. Alarm bells should have been ringing, but Sarah, blinded by desperation and Mr. Smith's charm, chose to ignore them. He was offering her a lifeline, a chance to turn her life around. The interview concluded with Mr. Smith inviting Sarah to a second meeting at his office to discuss the position further. He claimed his office was separate from his main business location, a smaller, more private setting for personal matters. He texted her an address, a nondescript building on the outskirts of town. Sarah, though slightly apprehensive about the location, convinced herself it was legitimate. After all, Mr. Smith had presented himself as a successful businessman. She told herself she was being paranoid. Section 5. Vanishing Act. The day of the second meeting arrived. Sarah, dressed professionally, drove to the address Mr. Smith had provided. She texted him upon arrival, but her message went unanswered. The building was eerily quiet, located on a deserted street with no other businesses in sight. Sarah hesitated, a knot of unease forming in her stomach. She tried calling Mr. Smith, but his phone went straight to voicemail. She considered leaving, but the thought of missing out on the opportunity kept her rooted to the spot. Against her better judgment, she decided to enter the building. Section 6. The Abandoned Office. The interior of the building was dark and deserted, reeking of mildew and decay. Dust-covered furniture and scattered debris suggested the space had been abandoned for years. Sarah called out for Mr. Smith, her voice echoing through the empty corridors. There was no reply, only an eerie silence that amplified her growing fear. She realized with a sickening certainty that something was terribly wrong. She had been lured here under false pretenses. Panic seized her as she turned to leave, but her escape route was blocked by a figure emerging from the shadows. Section 7. A Trap Revealed. It was Mr. Smith, his demeanor a stark contrast to the charming persona he had presented at the coffee shop. The transformation was chilling. Gone was the friendly smile and warm eyes that had put Sarah at ease. In their place was a sinister expression that sent shivers down her spine. His eyes were cold and calculating, his face contorted in a menacing smirk. It was as if he had been wearing a mask all along, and now, the true face of Mr. Smith was revealed. The facade had dropped, and what lay beneath was terrifying. He had been watching her, toying with her like a predator stalking its prey. Every move she made, every word she spoke, had been meticulously observed and analyzed. He had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and now it had arrived. Sarah, paralyzed with fear, could only watch as he approached, blocking her only exit. Her mind raced, trying to comprehend how she had ended up in this situation. The charming man she thought she knew was now a looming threat, and there was no escape. He had carefully orchestrated this entire scenario, luring her to this isolated location with the promise of a job. The setting was perfect for his sinister plan: an empty street, dimly lit, far from the safety of the bustling city. The Craigslist ad, the interview, it had all been a carefully constructed facade, a trap designed to ensnare unsuspecting victims. The job listing had seemed so promising, a beacon of hope in her desperate search for employment. But now, it was clear that it had all been a lie, a cruel trick to lure her into his grasp. Sarah remembered their first meeting at the coffee shop. She had been so hopeful, so eager to impress. Mr. Smith had seemed genuinely interested in her qualifications, asking thoughtful questions and nodding in approval. She had left that meeting feeling optimistic about her future. When she received the message inviting her for a second interview, she had been overjoyed. Little did she know, it was all part of his elaborate scheme. Each step had been meticulously planned to lead her to this moment of terror. Now, as she stood frozen in fear, the realization of the trap she had walked into hit her like a ton of bricks. Mr. Smith's sinister grin widened, knowing that his plan had worked perfectly. Sarah was trapped, and there was no one to save her. Section 8. The Craigslist Killer. News of Sarah's disappearance spread like wildfire. The abandoned building where she was last seen became a crime scene, swarming with police officers and forensic teams. The investigation revealed a chilling truth. Mr. Smith was not who he claimed to be. He was a predator, using Craigslist to lure vulnerable individuals, often young women seeking employment, to their deaths. He preyed on their desperation, exploiting their hopes and dreams for his own twisted gratification. Section 9. A Cautionary Tale. Sarah's story serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking in the digital age. She was a bright, ambitious young woman, full of dreams and aspirations. Like many of us, she turned to the internet to seek opportunities, unaware of the lurking dangers. The digital world, while offering a plethora of conveniences and opportunities, can also be a breeding ground for those with malicious intentions. Online platforms, while offering convenience and opportunity, can also be exploited by those with sinister intentions. Sarah's journey began with a seemingly innocent job offer. The position was perfect, the pay was excellent, and the company appeared reputable. But beneath the surface there were subtle signs that something was amiss. The emails were slightly off, the responses too eager, and the promises too good to be true. It is a stark reminder to trust your instincts, be wary of red flags, and prioritize safety when engaging with strangers online. Sarah ignored these red flags, driven by her desperation for a job. She didn't realize that the person on the other end was a predator, waiting to exploit her vulnerability. The warning signs were there, but they were easy to overlook in the excitement of a new opportunity. The allure of a perfect job, especially during desperate times, can cloud judgment. Sarah's excitement overshadowed her caution. She filled out the application, provided personal information, and even agreed to meet the supposed employer in person. The promise of a dream job made her overlook the inconsistencies and the gut feeling that something was wrong. Always meet in public places, verify identities, and take every precaution to ensure your safety. Sarah's first meeting was in a public place, which gave her a false sense of security. The predator was charming, professional, and seemed legitimate. But it was all a facade, a carefully constructed trap to gain her trust. Inform someone you trust about your whereabouts when meeting potential employers from online platforms. Sarah did tell a friend about her meeting, but she didn't share the details. She didn't want to seem paranoid or overly cautious. This lack of communication proved to be a fatal mistake. Sarah's story is a tragedy, a life cut short by a predator's cunning and deception. Her death was a wake-up call for many, a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind a screen. It highlighted the importance of vigilance, of listening to our instincts, and of taking every precaution when navigating the digital world. Let it serve as a reminder to be vigilant, to protect ourselves and each other from the dangers that lurk in the shadows of the digital world. we must educate ourselves and our loved ones about the potential risks, and always prioritize safety over convenience. Sarah's story, though tragic, can help prevent others from falling into similar traps. By sharing her story, we honor her memory and strive to create a safer digital environment for everyone.